Why trust changes everything at work and why trust is so important at work. That's a really deep statement, isn't it? And it's a really deep concept too. I hope you're ready for it. Let's dive in. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have influence long before they're promoted? People listen to them. People respect them. People seek out their opinion. And when they speak, others pay attention. You probably know a couple of people like this. You've got them in mind. Let's pull it apart. What's very interesting about this is that the reason people pay attention to them and that people respect them and people listen to them, the reason for that often has very little to do with their job title. In many cases, it comes down to one thing: trust. My name is Brian Dance. I've spent more than 30 years working in business and leadership, and throughout that time I've worked with teams, leaders and organisations trying to improve performance, culture and results. And if there's one thing I've seen that's consistent in all of those things, and it's critical, it's trust. Welcome to The Long Way Forward. Today I'm going to explore why trust changes everything at work and in life in general, actually. Think about brands, think about cars, think about people, think about anything. If you trust or are trusted, it's just easier. Now, before we go too far, if you find value in my conversations, please take a moment to subscribe. This is a long-term project of mine, but the more the merrier, the more people on the journey, the more fun it is for all of us. So if you're enjoying what I'm putting down, subscribe and start picking up. Let's start with an interesting question about trust. What happens when trust is missing? Let's think about that for a moment. What happens when trust is missing? What happens when people don't trust their manager? What happens when employees don't trust their teammates? What happens when customers don't trust a business? Usually the answer is the same. Communication breaks down. People become cautious. They protect themselves. They withhold information. You lose initiative. Decisions slow down. Relationships become strained. Performance suffers. And in the case of a business that's lost the trust of its customers, that can lead to a business closing. Now, the most interesting thing about all of these things is that trust often operates in the background. Because you see, when it's present, when we trust, we don't even think too much about it because something's already met our standards to be trusted. When trust isn't there, everything becomes harder. I've seen workplaces where people trusted each other deeply. Problems were raised early, mistakes were discussed openly, people collaborated naturally. Less politics, less finger pointing, less defensiveness. And I've also seen environments where trust was low. Every decision was a debate. People were afraid to admit mistakes. Departments threw each other under the bus. They blamed each other all the time. Simple problems became massive issues. The difference was not intelligence. These were all highly intelligent, capable people. The difference wasn't skill. They were qualified, degrees, done their apprenticeships. They knew what they were doing. They were experienced. The difference was trust between each other within a team and sometimes also between teams, between departments, between branches. If they didn't trust, they wouldn't talk. And when they did talk, they didn't believe one another. That meant their performance suffered. Accountability, big part of it. And trust even affects culture. Trust and culture, by the way, go hand in hand. I can think of one massive business that was built literally out of a big business buying lots of smaller businesses that were, to put it mildly, strong competitors. They didn't like one another. They had different operating systems, different value systems, different cultures. Suddenly, they're all forced to work together. Do you think they trust one another? Not for a very long time. Trust affects change. You want change, you've got to have trust. And that's why I think trust is one of the most important foundations of leadership, workplace, relationship, and life success. Trust. It doesn't get much more important. On trust, here's something a lot of people misunderstand. Trust is not built through speeches. It's not built through posters on walls either. And it certainly isn't built through slogans. Trust is built only one way, through behaviour. Consistency, reliability, and keeping your word. Behaviour. Think about the people that you trust the most. Why do you trust them? Is it because they have a fancy title? Probably not. Is it because they're the loudest person in the room? Definitely not. More often than not, though, it's because they've demonstrated over time that they can be relied upon. They will stand up and be counted. They will do what they say they're going to do. And you have no doubt of that whatsoever. The strength of their convictions, it's almost worn on their chest like a medal. And they have a hardwired operating system. You know what they're going to do, so you can trust the outcome. Their actions align with their words. Have you ever had or seen a leader whose actions don't align with their words? Tip to all politicians and wannabe politicians out there: if your actions don't align with your words, i.e. what you say getting elected isn't what you do once you get elected, see you at the next election. Trusted people and trusted leaders are predictable, but they're predictable in the best possible way. That predictability and that consistency creates confidence. Someone's not going to walk into your office and tell you there's a problem if they're terrified of how you're going to respond. But they know that if they walk into your office and you outline the problem, and they're not going to rip your head off. Instead, they're going to say, okay, how can we work together to resolve this? How did it happen? We'll get to that later. Right now, we need to fix the problem. We're all on the same team. We're in this together. Let's get cracking. That's the kind of manager you can trust. Now, that confidence in your manager, well, that becomes trust too. Here's a simple workplace example. Imagine a manager who promises to follow up on something every week. Hands up if you know one of those. One week they do, the next week they forget. The next week they do, then they disappear again. What happens? People don't believe them. Not because they're a bad person, not because they have bad intentions, but because inconsistency, those inconsistent actions, they take away trust. They erode it. Like water washing away sand, like water washing away a foundation. Trust is a foundation, by the way. Now let's imagine another manager. They don't make many promises, but every promise they make gets delivered. People begin to trust them, not because they're perfect. Those guys and ladies usually own their mistakes too, by the way. Not because they're perfect, but because they're reliable. Trust does not require perfection. What it does require is consistency. Now, that's a really important distinction. They don't need to be perfect. They just need to be consistent and do what they say they're going to do. And so if you want to be trusted, be consistent and do what you say you're going to do. It's that simple. Be honest, by the way, too. That's a big part of it. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. Only promise what you can deliver. You've got to manage expectations. Big part of trust. It's not letting people down by promising too much. Now, back into why trust matters so much in work, in life, in relationships. Trust matters so much because it creates a thing called psychological safety. People hear that phrase a bit more and more these days, but what does psychological safety actually mean? At its simplest, it means that people feel safe. They feel safe enough to contribute. They feel safe enough to ask questions, to admit mistakes, and safe enough to challenge ideas respectfully. And that safety brings learning. You see, without trust, people become cautious and they hide mistakes. They operate from a fear perspective. But with trust, people become engaged. They seek you out for your opinions, and collaboratively together you learn. Now that learning and that engagement is what drives a culture of performance. And I'm not going to say a culture of excellence, a culture of continuous improvement and performance. Because excellence is always a moving bar, in my opinion. So a culture of continuous improvement is much better than excellence, because what is excellence anyway? It's a standard at a point in time. Now, trust, I've also seen, it is one of the most important factors in successful change. So most organisations focus on processes. They have systems, they have technology, and they have structure. Yeah, get that. It's all important. I understand that. But sometimes these need to change. And if people don't trust the people leading change, you get resistance. Resistance to change is common, but if you trust the leader, you're much more likely to support it. Not because people don't doubt and resist change because change is wrong. They just resist it often because trust hasn't been established. People follow people before they follow plans. Think about that. People will follow people before they follow a plan. What that means? Well, for trust sits hand in glove with influence. You can't have influence without trust. It's why trust underpins leadership. You can't be a leader if your followers don't trust you, because they won't follow you. It's why trust also sits directly underneath culture. A good culture is a culture of trust where everybody trusts one another. What I say quite often to my team is, look, I will go to war for you. Trust me. I will, and we trust each other. I require integrity. I require honesty. If you make a mistake, own it, tell me, we'll fix it together. Trust. It's that important. Now, if you've listened to some of my earlier episodes, you'll know I've spoken about influence at work. Influence is not about authority. Do as I say, do as I tell you. Influence is not that. It's anything but that. Influence is trust. The people with the greatest influence are the people who others trust the most. And it's the same too with brands. We buy from brands we trust. We don't bat an eyelid. We usually don't haggle the price because we trust the brand. We know the quality of what's about to be delivered. Now, I also share thoughts like this quite a bit on LinkedIn. So if you want some practical insights or to grow your network there, I've got about 20,000 followers or so. So if you want to grow your network, do join me on LinkedIn. Do join my network. Love to see you there. Now, time for an exercise. What do you reckon? Let's make this a practical exercise. How do you yourself build trust? What things do you do that build trust? First, you start with 3 simple things. When you say you're going to do something, do that thing. Do what you say you're going to do. Sounds pretty obvious, but a lot of people overlook it. The second thing, and I touched on it briefly in how I work with my teams, be honest. Even when the message is uncomfortable. I'd rather you tell me a piece of bad news while we still have opportunity to course correct. People generally handle bad news better than surprises. And third, be consistent. So your behaviour shouldn't depend on your mood. Consistency creates predictability. And in the last couple of episodes, I touched on a few things. The last 3 episodes, I touched on things that directly impact mood: sleep, nutrition, and hydration. So if you want to check those out, get some tips on how best to manage mood swings, jump in. It's not a magic bullet, not a magic pill, but these things can help a lot of people. Consistent mood gives you predictability. If people find you predictable in a good way, that creates confidence. And confidence creates trust. Back in the day, I was often assigned quite difficult tasks to undertake, not because I was necessarily any better than anybody else, but because my manager trusted me to get that work done. They'd say, how are you going to fix it, Brian? So right now, I do not have an answer for you. Give me a little while. I'll figure it out. I'll come back to you with a plan. I'll go and sort it. And that's what I would do. Now, I want you to think about that little story from your point of view. And we're going to do a thing together called a trust audit. Think about all of the people in your life. You might need a pen and paper for this one. Think about all of the people in your life and ask yourself, who trusts me? And from that list, ask yourself, why do they trust me? And you'll see this emerging. Ask this question, where have I been consistent? And where have I been inconsistent? And you'll find that with the people that trust you, you're usually pretty consistent. And the most important question really, I guess, is what's one thing I could do this week to strengthen trust with the people around me? Because trust does not just appear overnight. It's built one interaction at a time, one promise at a time, kept, one conversation at a time, closed out, one action at a time, completed, as you said you would. And over time, those small moments, those completions, those actions create trust. And that's so powerful. It changes everything. Thank you for joining me on The Long Way Forward. If you've enjoyed this episode, and I really enjoy sharing, by the way, but if you've enjoyed this episode, it'd be awesome if you could like, comment, or subscribe. I'm really trying to grow the channel. I've got a lot more to share. And if you engage, it helps that by helping more people see these conversations. In the next episode, stick around. We're going to take this discussion a little bit further and explore the fastest way some leaders seem to earn trust more quickly than others. And that's true, isn't it? How is it that some leaders just emerge and we trust them? What's their secret? Until then, thank you for listening. This is the Long Way Forward podcast. I hope to see you on the next episode.